Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Hunter podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my co host, Mike Hudson. And today we're joined by our good friend, Jay Bicknell from the Bicknell Bunch. Jay was on a couple months ago and we were talking about his book, and we're going to get to Jay here in a minute. But, Mike, what's going on in South Carolina, brother?
Man, you know how it is. We were talking to Jay just briefly, and everybody, I think, now went from winter time and dry, and now we're wet and it's hot. And, I just came in, it's going to be 92 or 95 degrees here and humid. And, every time we do an intro, it seems like we're talking about the weather or whatnot. But, hey, we got sunny days today. Wounds are healing up, and, we're doing good. Plus, we got Jay on, brother. We're going to have a good day.
That's the truth, Mike. That's the truth. And I'm trying something a little bit different this year. It's going to be 90 here today too, but I've got on
Okay.
a long sleeve sun shirt.
Right.
I don't know if you boys ever use these UV protection shirts or not, but I'm going to give it a try and see if that kind of protects my skin a little bit, but still keeps
Yeah.
me cool.
Well, in the military, we go through hot weather training and that kind of stuff. Always keep exposed skin. So a lot of people look at you weird when you're wearing long sleeves. Oh, that's got to be hotter. No, actually, it's keeping you cooler. Your body wicks it off. Of course, me and you as quads, we can't sweat now, but back in the day, anything that you can keep from being exposed to direct sunlight keeps your core temperature down. So,
Yeah,
long sleeve shirts make sense. I do something similar, but I haven't tried that material that you're talking about. We may have to post a link and do some checking on it.
heck yeah, man. I'm going to have Beth spray me down with a spray bottle
Yeah,
this weekend whenever I get outside so that at least the material is a little bit moist and maybe that'll mimic sweat. So
there
we'll
you
give it
go.
we'll give it a
Like my
try.
son
Yeah,
started using them, and he wears some mowing. He pulls the hood up because he's kind of fair skinned, and
yeah.
he's got like five of them, and he wears them every single day.
There you
Oh,
go.
good to know, Jay. Good to know. I just ordered a couple off Amazon, and they're real comfortable. The material on them's real soft, and so far they're working out good. But I'm glad to
Yeah.
get a good recommendation because you guys are out in the sun all the time down in Kentucky. I was talking with Jay this morning, Mike, and he's out getting after it. Jay, you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on, what your project was this morning?
Yeah, so we got cows, and they got run of the farm, so we've been trying to fence them out, and we've ended up putting in several acres of food plots. We got see what I get. I got a wildlife blend and some foxtail millet and some sorghum that
Yeah.
we got out or Milo, and so we're getting ready to leave. We're going to be going to Douglas Lake here a little later, and I did not want. It's not come up yet, but I'm figuring we got a little rain the other day. It'll start popping, and I didn't want the cows in it, so uh, we got her all fenced out. I did this morning, finished fencing it. I'll probably come home and the cows will be in it, but
Yeah.
we we, we made a try anyway.
Made a try at it, huh?
Yeah.
I might have to get your expertise on electric fencing for our bee setup, our apiary. We haven't been hit by bears yet, but in the county that we live in, they're pretty prevalent, and I might have to get some expertise knowledge on what to set up as far as electric fencing around the apiary.
Well, I'll just tell you right now, we there's a Premier One fencing that we use for our sheep.
Mm.
And you could one roll of that would do great, but it's like a page wire electric fence,
Yeah.
and I love it. Now, what I did around the cows because I just don't have that much. It would take a lot of that stuff to do that, but we just run a single like a poly wire. But now, if you get the charger, it's all about the joules, and it's not. Some of them will say 50 miles and 100. You just throw that out. You want at least 1 joule if you at minimum. They got like 0.05.
Yeah.
Down where I'm at, I got to use a solar charger, and
Yeah.
I didn't get as many joules as I wanted on that one, but it was had to get it done, and so that's where I'm at with that.
Now the jewels, you're doing that so that you got consistent shock value through the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, and the
Yeah.
more joules, and I'm learning on this myself, but the
Yeah.
the higher the joules, like the better it is, and some of them will say 50 miles, but it's like 0.01 joules. So,
Yeah,
you got to, and they're expensive, so you don't want to waste your money.
right.
Oh,
Close
exactly.
to the charger, you get a good jolt. You get away from it, you might not get as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely need the solar charger and
Yeah.
all that. And I think if I put up maybe two or three strands, just something very simple, just to keep the bears out, and
Right.
put some kind of gate on it so that we can get in it kind of easily and not have to worry about it. But that's probably in the fall or next year coming around.
Just something to deter them. That's all.
That's right. That's right. Jay, since the last time we talked and we had you on talking about your book, you want to give us a little update on the book sales and how that's
It's
been
been
working out for you?
steady. It's been steady. It's been a kind of keeping steady. It ain't been like gangbuster, but it's been steady. So, and I'm getting ready to probably order quite a few, and then maybe if there's a place or two that I can set up, and I'm gonna try to sell a few there, and then give a few away. There might be two coming your all's direction. So,
Oh,
Man,
wow.
I'd love that. I ended up
Yeah.
getting the Kindle version, and then I sent a couple of copies to friends of mine, and man, did I get good feedback, Jay. Um,
Yeah.
a buddy of mine, Roy, he said, he read that cover to cover in no time, and then he actually talked about it with his church group. He said that it articulated a lot of things he's been thinking about, and you
Yeah.
you put it down, pen to paper, and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback. It's views from the woodlot, and if you're looking for a good summer read, something quick, I highly recommend that.
I appreciate that.
It's awesome to see you guys sharing your faith. I love what you and your boys are doing, especially even on social media. Every night you'll post something, hey, before we go to bed, there's something we can pray for. Dude, we need more people doing that. We live by faith, but most people don't air it.
That come about like I had a conviction that, man, I need to do that because my grandmother, she was my like our prayer warrior.
Yeah,
She passed on, and I was like, I need to do that on the sixes, so it's 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. And it's just really starting to pick up, and people praying for each other, and I believe in the power of prayer because
absolutely.
they didn't think we could have kids, and we got six because we had a bunch of people praying for us, and
Yeah,
and so I tell everybody, be careful what you
be
ask for.
careful. That's right. That's right. Hey, if you tell God, hey, use me, you might have just stuck your foot in your mouth.
That's right.
Uh, we do appreciate it though, Jay, because Mike and I have both been dealing with some bad pressure wounds for a number of years, and your group has certainly prayed for us, and we're seeing some positive improvement. And we got another buddy, Coy Varnum, down in Alabama, and he's got his prayer group working on it, and we just appreciate everyone's prayers and thoughts
Absolutely.
getting us squared away for sure.
That group you got down there, Jay, man, you and your boys, dude, y'all are doing great things, man. And speaking of the boys, what are they up to since you were out there running some wire and whatnot? What are y'all getting into this afternoon on the lake?
Well, we'll probably get there this evening. I don't know. I gotta go load up some boats or some kayaks. I'm figuring that's going to be part of the plan, and I know there'll be a fishing rod or two that's going to definitely uh, all happen because my youngest boy Joel, he's my like we all like to fish, but he's on a different level. So,
There you go.
he's our rock
That's your
cut fisherman.
pro angler right there.
Jay,
Yeah.
I seen a video of Joel the other day, and he was cutting a rock. Now, do you guys are you looking for fossils, or you making jewelry, or I don't see very many 10-year-olds out there with a rock cutter cutting stuff open. So what was behind that, buddy?
Okay, so my neighbor who is actually coming over, he's a super guy. I met them down on the farm. I didn't realize who it was. Well, I didn't even know him then. My father-in-law told them they could rock hunt, and Liam, that's their son, and he's 15, I think now. But I met them down there, and they were rock hunting, and then all of a sudden we become really, really good friends, and they rock hunt all the time, arrowheads, and they get into Kentucky has got some really great agates, like some
Okay.
high dollar agates, and so they cut a lot of rock. He actually, Liam, the boy, he made me a knife. He took a blank case and then cut out the agate and put on the blade. And so my youngest son is really into it. And our creek, like they find arrowheads and stuff all the time, and then a lot of like, quartz, and I can't remember the other stuff. And so he's into it now. And Liam, and if you get a chance, check out Liam's Lab on Facebook. I mean, he's a super
Definitely.
kid. He scares me sometimes because he's a whole lot smarter than me. So I mean, he's like really smart. But but they had that tile saw. That's what he got started on, cutting rocks, and so they brought it over and give it to Joel, and now we're uh, cutting rocks. So geodes,
You,
there we go. We got all kind. My daughter, she like.
Geodes. Yeah.
We got geodes. She's made a flower bed, and it lines with geodes that we found here. So
Yeah.
isn't that something? We often hear a lot of complaints about parents that can't get their kids off video games and this and that. And heck, you got kids out there finding arrowheads, which I've never found one. I've looked for 50 years and I've never found an arrowhead. That would be like finding a golden treasure for me. But you got them out there in the creeks finding geodes and cutting them open. And
Hmm.
I just think that's amazing, Jay. I mean, what your family's doing, living around the land and doing it with a purpose.
Right.
This is wonderful, and these are the types of stories that we need to highlight for people. That hey, you can find these things on your property. You can go out there and spend an hour, making some great jewelry. This is good stuff.
yeah, I mean, anytime you can go get in a creek and wade through a creek and look at rocks. Now, one of the things that with like Liam and Neil, that's his dad, and Melissa's the mom, that they taught me, like they would pick up a rock and be like, "You see this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be a rock I would be skipping across the water." And they're like, "No,
Yeah.
it's an artifact." And then they would go into detail on how it had been, what it had been used for, and I'm like, "Huh." So it's pretty interesting, and like I said, Joel, he is really into the rock hunting now, and cutting rocks, and it is hard for me to keep all my kids inside. There's
Yeah.
some days, like the other day, it was I come in, I was a little tired and had a few other things to do, and Joel was like, "We're gonna cut some rocks." I was like, "I guess we will."
But
Yeah,
like Greg said, man, it's awesome to see people disconnect to get back out. Greg, I was laughing when you were saying that. I was on the opposite end of the spectrum. My dad, if you didn't have something to do, you took a second, you used the bored word. If you said I'm bored, he would find something for you to do. And so his thing was, I don't care what you do outside, go play in traffic. And so I'm an old jarhead. I was breaking rocks, but it's usually one rock breaking against another.
oh,
They're doing it for productivity. I was just doing it for destruction.
oh, geez.
You know.
Yeah, they I mean, like I said, so we homeschool them,
Yeah.
and it was funny during turkey season. It's been 3 or 4 years ago, which I was at work and my wife was. I say we, she pretty much homeschools. But there was my youngest one. He'd already killed 2 turkeys. He went out on the porch and he heard one gobbling. So he runs in and he tells his brothers. They're grabbing all their gear, heading out the door. And my wife's calling me. She's like, "I can't even keep him in to do school." And I'm like, it's turkey season. You got to
Hey,
do
it's
what.
part of it's part of the science lecture for today.
That's right.
That's
And they did,
that's
and they did kill one. My oldest son called it in for my middle son. So
that's fantastic. And you got to work on turkey time. You can work on schooling when the sun goes down, but turkeys are calling. You got to get out there and get after them.
that's right. That's right. And one thing my dad did that I tried. My dad's my hero, but
Yeah.
one thing he done is I always liked bird dogs. I had bird dogs
Oh
and
yeah.
coonhounds, and so he builds this dog condominium. And then my brother liked chickens and ducks, so he builds this like chicken condominium. And he was like, "That was your interest, and if you're into doing that, then you're staying out of trouble." And I was always usually running a dog, too busy doing that to get in a lot of trouble. So
You
Yes,
know,
sir.
that's what it's about a lot of times, just finding what somebody's interests are, what their passions are. And you know, we do it a lot, Jay, when we're looking at new injuries and whatnot. What are you passionate about? Let's help harbor those. We don't want to push anything on anybody, but I love to watch a good dog work.
Oh
Yep.
yeah,
You can't go wrong with that.
yeah.
Hmm.
I'm a. I've been. My dad always. My dad and my granddad had bird dogs, but by the time I come along, they wasn't doing it no more. My granddad had Parkinson's disease, so he would tell me about bird dogs.
Yeah.
So I got into them, and my dad, by them talking about it, I think I was third, fourth grade when I got my first dog, first bird dog, and I've been into it ever since. And my dad, he goes, I think maybe I should have introduced you to golf because golf course
She
you make the connections that make money and stuff. And he's like, and I was like, no, I'd rather be doing this than playing any golf.
I'll tell you what, too, growing up with a dog, if you have a young child and you can get them interested in animals and especially dogs for companionship. And I just love to see the grandkids with the dog and, how they interact with it and a little bit of responsibility of feeding dogs, watering them, getting them outside, walking and things like that. I don't think you can go wrong introducing a child to a dog.
Now, my first dog we got, my bird dog, he stayed out in the barn. We had a kennel. At
right.
that, I just had a single kennel. Dad hadn't made the big one, but it taught me a lot. One, to get over it, because I was like fourth grade, get over the fear of the dark, because I had to go feed him, responsibility. And there's some nights, I go out and it'd be pretty dark, and you're like, it's a pretty good little walk to the barn. And, but that dog come first, I had to take
Yep,
care of it. And so, yeah, responsibility and, taking care of something. I just think having a dog is a great teacher for kids.
absolutely.
You know, we run into things when you're working with working dogs, you know, being consistent, knowing that dog is on what they're supposed to be. And Jay, I didn't grow up with any bird dogs. We grew up with coon dogs. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
we're always running blue ticks or, you know, red ticks, or some people would have different hounds or whatever. But the guys I always hunted with were the ones that they could tell you that dog just off the way he bayed. And they knew right away, my dog, not mine, but their dog, would not make a sound, and if you heard him, that he was already treed. Or they would say, "Oh, that's Lucy," or that's Bo, or that dog is doing such and such. Give him a second, listen to him, and they didn't run trash.
Oh, I'd coon hunted some, and it was crazy. I never was good at calling a dog,
Yeah,
but I've been with guys, and they, like you said, that's old, uh, Lucy or whatever. She's getting ready to circle a tree.
yeah,
She's checking, and she's gonna tree in just a second. You're like, oh my goodness, it did it, or that's old Shorty.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just booger barking or something, and you're like, man, I don't even, I
And,
just hear dogs barking.
yeah, and these guys knew what their dogs were doing, and I've hunted with a bunch of different people, and you would get off something, and you would walk the whole doggone county, and I'm like, man, they ain't treed yet, or they're constantly putting us on something, and we're not finding the coon, and you would find out, man, their dogs might be running deer, you don't know, but then you're with other guys. These dudes were pure professionals. Their
Oh yeah,
dogs knew without a shadow of a doubt, do not even make a sound. If you hear a deer, that dog would not bark. He was a coon dog only.
yeah.
Huh. I don't know if you guys have been doing any uh, groundhog hunting or any varmint containment around your place, but we are overrun with groundhogs this year. And last 2 weekends, we got to do a little groundhog hunting, something
Yeah.
I haven't done in 27 years since I've been injured. So I'm getting back into groundhog hunting and trying to rid the farm of them because they're freaking everywhere.
I tell you one thing they will do. They get in a barn,
Oh
they will
yeah.
flat out destroy a barn. I mean, they'll take one down, all them holes they build. So.
You
And
know, we
and
we
Jay,
don't have as many groundhogs here, but man, we are inundated the last 2 or 3 years with just squirrels. They're the same thing, Jay. They'll get in there, chew your wiring up. I had to rewire our barn because the suckers chewed all the wires up.
And Jay, it's funny you mentioned barns and the destruction they do because we got two of them on Saturday, real close to the barn, and they've been digging holes around the barn. And I said, we got to put a stop to this. So I think we've gotten maybe 5 of them so far, but we're not even putting a dent in them yet. But the 22 mag, and I think I'm going to start using my 17 HMR.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what you guys think of that round for groundhog, but I got a semi-auto 10 round clip, and that might make it a little bit easier for me instead of using
Mhm.
a single shot is using that semi-auto.
That's
I,
17. You can't go wrong with it, man.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think
I've
that's
never one of those, but I got a friend that's got them. He loves it.
yeah. I
I was
know
going to
it's
say we're seeing a lot more consistency too, Greg. I'll send it to you, but they're making some now with integral suppressors built into the barrels, and they're doing those in like the Ruger 1022.
yeah.
Jay Youngblood was over here the other day, and he's got a Ruger 1022 that's got the carbon fiber barrel, and then he did a titanium suppressor on it, and so super quiet but lightweight. So for us quads. And you can put a 30 round magazine on it.
Okay. Nice, nice. I've got a suppressor on my 6.5 Creedmoor,
Yeah.
but I think that's a little bit just too much of a round
Yeah.
for groundhog, you know. But I wish my 17 had a threaded barrel on it. I'd like to be able to switch that over, and that might be something I consider doing is getting that barrel threaded.
Hmm.
I don't know if that would be cheaper than buying a new rifle or not.
It just really depends on it. If you know a good gunsmith, or right now they are running some of the sales. Now the ones with the carbon fiber barrels, they're not cheap. They're not cheap firearms. But some of the others that come with the integral suppressor and whatnot, they're reasonable, and you can run subsonic bullets out of a 22.
Yes.
But it's you're gonna lose a little bit of distance or whatever. But it depends on what you're trying to do with that with your setup. But
I'm about a 50, 50, 60 yard shot. I'm not looking at, anything over 100 yards for sure. So a subsonic 22 would be real quiet, and that might be the way to go, Mike. I might have to talk to the boss and see if we can invest in a new 22. I don't know if I can justify that or not, but I'll bring up all your good points.
I ain't trying to get you in the doghouse, but it's like you said. Some people like up close shots. I know some of the guys that do a lot of prairie dog hunting out west. They're wanting firearms that are 500, 600 yards. So they're doing like 22 250s or um, you know different. It's just whatever your fancy is, but they're looking at 600 yards or so.
Yeah.
And I think they do some of that. They're doing consistency on shots, and it's whatever every person's into.
For me, living in Pennsylvania, growing up here, and all of the rifle hunting, all the deer hunting I've done, the most furthest shot I've ever taken on a deer was across a power line,
Right.
probably 200 yards. But 99% of my deer, I've taken it 50, 60 yards most with a rifle, and well under that with a crossbow. But I understand out west it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
Down in Kentucky, Jay, are you guys long shots? Or are you more like here in PA with under 100 yards seems to be the norm?
It depends. Like, so a lot of places that we are, it's under 50
Yeah.
yards. But then like in our bottoms, now I've shot took 200-yard shots down their bottoms. The big
Yeah.
creek bottoms. So, but um, yeah, and even in the creek bottoms where we set our stands, it's kind of the funnel where the deer are funneling through. So that still, you're probably under 100 on most shots. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the big things is I don't hunt a lot of fields. So,
Hmm.
if you're hunting in a wood lot, you're going to have obstructions, you're going to have branches, you're going to have trees. So getting that, long distance shot in the woods is kind of difficult because I don't hunt many fields and things.
It's all
You know,
about knowing your equipment. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead, Jay.
something you said, Mike, there was about what you're into,
Yeah.
and something that, like, if you're a rifle hunter, or a bow hunter, we all need to stick together.
Yes, sir.
Whatever, whatever you like. because you see so many people anymore, you
Yep.
know, are especially deer shaming.
Yep.
It's driving me crazy. I got some pretty good bucks on the wall, and
Preach, brother.
I think there's like a 6-pointer right here. It's kind of over here. Uh, that was the first buck I shot. Now I got like the one behind me. I think he's like a 147. But that little 6-pointer meant more to me than any of the big deer because I worked
Yes,
hard,
sir.
and that was the first buck I ever shot. We didn't really have a deer season, but people would shame you for that. And man, I tell my boys, that's out of all the deer, I'm the proudest of that one just because of work. And you see all these, and they're doing it in turkeys now.
Of course.
And I don't care what you do. If you're, you know, running deer, or you got deer dogs running them, hey, that's awesome. I'd love to see it, but that's something that I've gotten seem more aggravated at is how us hunters are
What
against.
happened?
And then we look at
It-
what's going on in Oregon right now,
yes.
and they're getting ready. They might lose all hunting. I mean, you might even be able to raise cattle, and it's we didn't stand together. Anyway, off my soapbox.
No, no, Jay, you bring up a great point, man. It's when did it change from when you would hunt with buddies, hunt with your uncles, your granddad, and they were boosting you. Now it's like everybody on social media wants to bash you. Or if
Yeah,
you're
Hmm.
not doing it a certain way, you're doing it wrong.
right,
Or, even worse, this one ticks me off something fierce. If you're not sitting out in 5-degree temperature and you're almost hunting butt naked like you're Native American, and you're shooting a certain bow that you made the arrow for, you're doing it wrong because you're using a new technology or you using something like that. It's almost like you're not doing it old school way. It's all wrong. We're
Yes.
right,
still hunting. We're still a hunter. Be ethical. Make a
yeah,
good shot. Teach your kids about doing the right thing. Why are you hunting? It's not always about harvesting an animal, but if you do, make sure you do it the right way. You show
right,
respect to that animal and the land you took it from, and give thanks, to God that we were able to be out there another day. And man, it's gone to where it's all. I guess everybody's behind the camera. It's easier just to bash on people than build them up.
right,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Mike, you bring up a really good point. We need to support each other in all we do as long as it's
Yeah.
ethical, legal, and not everyone has the same access to hunting property
No.
that somebody else does. And you know, with the social media and Instagrams and TikToks and hunting shows, I mean, if you're not killing a 200-inch deer, you're not getting after it. Is what some people think.
Right.
Well, boys and girls, let me tell you, 200-inch deer are far and few between.
Yeah.
And, you have to be thankful for the animals that are in your area that you have access to. And if you're happy with that animal, if you're happy with that 6-point, you're happy with that 4-point, which I am. If I get a really good shot at a 6-point with my crossbow, I am tickled to death. And you have to support people. You guys are both right. I kind of hate that animal shaming and putting down somebody's first deer. Or, the line, oh, could have used another year or what
yeah,
have you. And sometimes that can be very frustrating. And I think it discourages a lot of hunters that don't have access to these big deer to get out. Like, what are these guys going to say about me, or you know what's the reaction that social media gets whenever you post your deer pics?
Right. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with rubbing your buddy a little bit if you're in deer camp, but you got a
yeah,
personal relationship with that guy. You can rib him a little bit, but I'm not going to get on and bash a kid for killing a turkey. But then we also live in a society, Greg, now where, your page just got taken down for doggone sharing people's harvest and doing that. We got folks out there, and you hate to say any group names, but they just get upset with you harvesting an animal, but they want to go eat a burger and they have no clue where the cow came from.
Well,
Yes,
I
sir.
I had somebody get going back and forth with me. And I've had two of them. One said that it was wrong biblically to kill animals, and I was
Uh,
like, I was, going.
yeah.
I said, but do you eat hamburger? yeah, but somebody else does it. So my hands are clear of blood. And I'm like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And then
Yeah.
I had another one. They were, got on to me. And I'm like, food don't come from a grocery store. And they said, I beg to differ. We call them food libraries. And that's where food comes from. And I'm like, oh, man, you've been way too far removed from the farm to
Yes,
That's
sir.
that. And and in the vegan crowd, I know we've had some people on the vegan crowd that get on to us, but I have farmed. And if you drop a plow or
yes,
you spray a field,
yes,
you're killing all kinds of small mammals and
yep,
and reptiles. You're displacing ground nesting birds. You're displacing, and so by my cows out there eating grass, and we're rotating them and trying to do stuff like that, versus a plow.
yeah,
Uh, so you're killing, if you're eating vegan food, you're killing a lot, and then you have to protect that vegan food. So we're either going to be trapping,
yep,
spray something, and they put that organic word on there. And I've done a lot of research on organic farming, and that word is used loosely,
yes,
a lot of
yeah,
product. So I just uh, uh,
And, and Jay, you're the perfect guy to talk about farming and harvesting and conservation and using the land to benefit your family and the community. And I think it all comes down to education that people are fine with somebody else killing their animal or shipping this beef in from out west or what have you. They're fine. Their hands are clean, as you said. But I would rather you know, put in the food plot like you are today, raise your cattle, harvest your game in the fall, butcher it yourself. I would rather my hands be, completely tied into that product and know what it takes to feed my family and realize that, nothing is going to go to waste on this animal, that we're going to try to use as much of this animal as we can because we know the value of harvesting that animal. And when people are removed from the process of growing food, it's crazy and it's an uneducated opinion.
yeah. And if you get a beef directly from the farm, and this is probably sad to say, but I got a buddy that raises beef, and I buy one off him every year because he knows how to feed them. I mean, he's got it
right,
down to science. But you can take the hamburger from there and then go to the store and buy a hamburger. It's completely different color. It
yep,
fries different, and its taste, it's amazing. And like the
Mm-hmm.
steaks, you can throw a ribeye on there. And I go to a restaurant and we get a steak. Me and my oldest son, we talk about that a lot. You get a steak at a restaurant, and we're like, we could do better than that with what we got.
yep,
And
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
they're good, but it's just a whole different, and I highly recommend if you instead of going to the grocery store, if you can, it's a upfront cost, buying like a half beef or a whole because you're
right,
all.
yep,
But if you look like with the half I bought, I buy a half every year from him. It ended up this past year coming out to about $4.25 a pound. That's steaks, hamburgers, everything,
hmm,
and the quality, it's not even comparable. So
you guys are bringing up so many great points when we're looking at it. There's nothing wrong with reliable resources, and reusable resources. We only have so much land. I get that. But when you start looking at commercial properties that are doing beef or pork, they're feeding them antibiotics. They're feeding them all this stuff. We're processing the land and damaging the land beyond repair. You take for instance, you go out to Texas and you're looking, and we don't want to get on a big soapbox, but at the same token, all these things kind of go together. Jay brought up a great point. We Greg, and it coincides with what you were saying. I want to know my hands are a little dirty. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean that in a negative way. I want my hands in the dirt. I want a little bit of blood on my hands. Reason being, I know what it takes to get it because at any time, if you're relying on somebody else, that reliability can become a detriment. If
right.
somebody decides they're going to cut something off, you don't know how to get food. You need to know how to do it. Bigger than that, you go out where I was going, you go to Texas, you see these solar farms. All these people are like, oh, they're generating revenue and they're generating power. Yes, but then you look underneath those things, they've scorched that earth to where
Hmm.
even if you took that out for the next 30, 40, 50 years, that property is not farmable and it's never going to be able to be productive again. Same thing with these wind places. Great, and he's doing it. How many truckloads of vehicles did it take to put that one windmill in?
Right.
Well, Mike, you bring up a really good point about these solar farms, and we've been having a lot of discussion locally here about that. And one of the big, detriments is once they put that on the land, as you said, it destroys that farm, it destroys
Yeah,
the soil. Why aren't they putting these on rooftops, on parking lot structures, for parking areas, things like that? Why are they using farmland?
yeah,
I don't understand it. That's a big thing right now here in Washington and Greene County, and we're kind of battling that. We almost had a solar farm go in next to our place, and it kind of fell through because of the cost of connecting it to the grid. But I definitely don't want to see a solar farm next to me. What kind of heat is that going to generate? What kind of process does that entail?
yeah.
And it is definitely not the green energy that they're putting it out to be.
Exactly. And, to me, them solar panels drawing all that heat. They're like I'd much rather have grass,
Yeah.
and it
Yes,
just
sir.
to me this, a lot of time, and I got a biology degree, which is just
Yep.
a
Hmm.
paper, but I think I got some common sense too, and a lot of times this green energy, the math just don't math. I mean, it's
Yep.
you you're like, so we're gonna heat up the ground, and you're all worried about climate change or global warming.
Right.
Here
Right.
you're putting solar panels, these big miles and miles of these solar panels that has to be heating up the ground. That's taking the grass away. I just, I'm like, wow.
And the kicker behind it, Jay, is you're right. We can be educated in all of it. The three of us, we all have college degrees. Common sense is not common anymore. And
Yeah,
and but here's the thing too. All of this stuff has. Oh, we lost our host. All of this stuff has its place,
yeah,
and you and I both still use solar panels for small things. I've got them on a trickle charge, or I'll have them on my deer feeders, or any of that kind of stuff. But the kicker comes in, you don't do them large scale. They're producing minuscule amounts of heat.
right, right.
And so they help keep and maintain a battery, or they'll do something that to me adds to longevity of the batteries we use. But then you take other things like your Teslas and your cars. It's not to knock on anybody with those cars, but now we're seeing a new derivative come about. What do you do when those batteries are used up?
Exactly. I worked for Division of Water, and I was a environmental biologist for them, and I was kind of a black sheep around there just because of my way of thinking. But they had the cars with the like the Prius, and what I forgot the other one where uh, the hybrids.
Yes.
We're walking in, and I'm talking to this person, and I'm like, man, that's the fossil fuel ultimate warrior there. Like, dude, so
Right.
how do you figure that? I was like, well, whenever you plug it in, we're burning coal to
Yep.
make electricity, and then when it switches over, your battery's done or go gas. I'm like, now we're using oil,
Yes,
and
sir.
I never thought of it that way. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem.
We call him a double dipper, man. He's getting
Yeah,
it from both
that's
sides.
the ultimate fossil fuel. Like, wow, I didn't think of it that way.
Right. He's trying to burn everything up. I'm not even going to wait to burn one out. I'm going to burn both of them up. And you don't want to laugh at it, but it's just, yeah, we got some resources that we need to take care of, guaranteed. But at the same token, we got to be smarter about it because when we run these batteries, they got a life, and when they're done, what do you do with these monster-sized car batteries? They don't have a way to store them, reuse them, do anything else, and so it gets to the point where we have to be use a little bit more common sense. You know, so Jay, I got a couple questions for you. You
Yeah.
and your crew, not only going out here doing some fishing, you guys doing camping and all kind of good stuff. What's one of the activities you're looking forward to and getting to in the summer?
Well, we've really got into like getting the food plots out. Me and the boys have.
Yeah,
That in years past we haven't done that as much, and we're really. I'm looking forward to see what the summer brings. Now, when I was in college, I did all my work on quail, and I was, always had bird dogs. There used to be a covey or two of birds on this farm, and there's not. I've not seen or heard any in for years, and that's typical in Kentucky. You just, our quail population is just keeps going down. But not too far from our farm, there's another piece of property that I did end up. We were duck hunting and actually walked in and bumped a covey of quail. So I'm hoping if we build it, they will come. That would be the ultimate to see quail make it back here. But our
yeah,
food, we're getting into it now, and we're getting ready to put in some moist soil units. We got some kind of wet areas that we can flood a little bit, and
right.
uh, uh, we're going to get ready to put in some piping and stuff to where we can do that. So that's our, I guess, the fun time summer thing. My boy, he really worked hard on the dove field, and he's got I guess he probably put out. Well, I helped him a little bit, but there's probably 3 acre sunflower field for the doves.
Yeah.
Well, he's got a baby coming August the 31st. So September
Okay.
1st is opening day.
Dove.
His
Yep.
brothers showed him. We said, you know what? We'll be sending you pictures of
Yep.
and he's like, you got to wait a few days.
No, no. You send us pictures of the niece and nephew. We'll send you some pictures of Dove on
Yeah.
the grill. And Jay, you did it right, man. So we got quail. South Carolina's the same. So our quail population's died out some. It's going to take people putting it back out there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people don't know it. That's how NWTF really got started. The turkey populations were dying off, and so these guys had to intercede some. You as a biologist, you understand it more than most. We see it. I don't know how they do in Kentucky, but South Carolina, they've gotten away from it some. Um, well, a lot. And in my opinion, I used to like it where we would have mandatory deer check-ins, and there would
Uh-huh.
always be a biologist out there, and he might take a clipping or look at the jawbone or do whatever. They don't do that at all anymore in South Carolina at all.
Well, we
But
don't do that in Kentucky, and I think a culture has actually been lost there. That's something.
yes,
The the first, well, that little 6 pointer when I killed it, my
yeah.
uncle said I put it around so much that I blew the hair off of it, showing people. But you went and you checked that deer in, and then there's
Yep.
all these checking deer, and you're like, man, telling your story, and now that don't happen. We do telecheck, and
Yeah.
my boys don't get that. I'm looking in the bed of their truck, and now we do whenever we go to the processor. We
Sure.
we kind of do that a little bit, but it's not like it used to be. And they take your Polaroid picture and put it
Yep.
up on the board, and it was like a big deal, and
Yeah.
that's been lost. So
And I think some of that, Jay, leads back to the other discussion we were having about shaming and
yeah,
all that. These guys, you got all these guys that didn't grow up seeing any of that, and we would go into a check station and, the game warden would tell you, oh, let me show you something about this deer. You had the interaction with law enforcement there as
right.
well, where you knew that game warden because you might see him at a check station. Or we would help build a covey of quail, or we would help to mandate that and help build that back up. It's going to take us reaching out and trying to get these quail going. We're doing the same thing with pheasant.
Well, I tell you something on the quail that like, so when I was a kid, we had our fence rows that were grown up, and we've, you know, but now it's become fence row to fence row farming, and I understand it. You gotta, farming is, it's usually make or break. A roll here, roll there.
Right.
But one of the things that I've been really getting into, and I highly recommend people, is the Carbon Cowboys. They
Yep.
got a YouTube channel, and I've been watching that a lot. And I think that a lot of farmers, and me included, it was one of those things. Well, this is the way Granddad did it,
Yeah.
the way I have to do it. And then you got to have a tractor or a piece of equipment. And the more I'm watching on Carbon Cowboys, they said tractors was the worst thing that ever happened to farming, because there's ground compaction and all that.
Yeah.
But growing your soil, and I mean, and people that have gotten tons of grass, they're seeing the quail come back, and they're actually putting more cattle on that property, because they're doing amp grazing and different practices, and they're getting a really biodiverse grasses. There's all kinds of grasses. They're seeing, like, one guy's talking about how his dragonflies. He's starting to see dragonflies back, and I think that farmers in general need to get into a different state of mind. Not just because my great granddad, that's the way he done it. That's the way I need to do it. And
Sure.
we need to be making some changes, because it's like us. We cut hay off same property over and over and over, and every time you
Hmm.
drop that hay, you're pulling all that nutrients out. So then you got to come back and fertilize.
Right.
And a lot of them guys are talking about, hey, I'm growing soil. I'm not growing grass. I'm growing dirt, good dirt that's putting nutrients back in. And then that's leading, they're starting to see quail come back. So,
Yeah. All that leads to something, and that's what I love about education. It always builds on itself, and if there's something I don't know, even if it's not my wheelhouse, I want to know it. And you talk about compaction with tractors, and you think about it this way: back in the day when this guy was using a mule to till his land up, he's getting free fertilizer
yeah.
coming from the mule, and so all of that makes sense. You got more green space, you got more quails coming back, and it's just like anything else. A lot of people don't know about farming. If you farm a certain crop, you got to change it up every now and then and put something else in there. Whether it's all right, we're doing cotton this turnaround, next time it's going to be peanuts, something that amends the soil, or
Yeah.
if not, all you're doing is killing your soil.
You just keep pulling and pulling. And I'll tell you, I'm a big fan of Dr. Grant Woods, and he's made a lot of changes. Like, instead of tilling, they're crimping,
Yeah.
and crimp that, and then all that goes back into the soil,
Hmm.
and you just no till over it. And like, I used to be the guy that thought that, you in, to feed America, you had to use glyphosate, Roundup Ready corn, Roundup Ready beans.
Right.
And I do not, I try not to use any, spray if possible, just because, they're finding it in everything now,
Yeah.
glyphosate. And I'm not a big fan of Monsanto seeds either, Monsanto's. Uh, and I give you an interesting fact on that.
Yeah.
Roundup, that causes that cancer.
Right.
Bayer has the stuff that fights the cancer that Roundup causes, and they bought Monsanto for like $6 billion. So they're selling the glyphosate
Right.
and cancer cure. So that makes me, I seen it and I looked it up, because I'm like, man, this
Right.
is this urban legend or something, and it is true. So
It's sad.
we need to rethink a lot of things. You start
Uh,
looking.
it really raises those antennas if you start looking around to see
Yes.
all those things that are out there. I mean, you think we are going down the conspiracy side now, but here it is. Those conspiracies come from somewhere,
Oh
and
yeah.
we see it, Jay, and it's not funny because we got Monsanto here that produces a lot of that stuff for Roundup, and
Yeah.
all of these guys and girls are getting these funky cancers. And I grew up on a Marine Corps base at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, and for years and years and years, they poured all this stuff into the water table, and then wondered why, people would have 10 toes on one foot, and they couldn't figure it out, and you can't have all these benzenes and these heavy leads in the water that you're drinking.
Right, right. So it's something that I've started to be more aware of, and that like I feel like that you can feed America and not need the glyphosate. We're just going to have to figure it out, but
Right. And you brought it up, you're talking about crimping. A lot of people don't know what it is. You're kind of pinching that vegetable off or whatever, and then tilling that back into some of the
you
soils.
don't
And
even till. They don't even till now. It's
really,
you're crimping that like you get your say you put winter wheat out or something, and you're crimping it, which that crimper kills it, and then you come back and till right through that, and so all that like that whatever you had over, or whatever it
right.
can even be weeds, so it dies and it's going back into the soil, and that's putting back into your soil, and it's pretty neat. I haven't started crimping. I got a buddy that he does crimping, and he's loving the results of it.
So it's almost like you're doing that throw and grow. You don't even have to till to repopulate your crop,
No,
or
you have to like they no till, so you got a no tiller that's like it cuts the ground and a little puts cuts and then drops your seed in,
yeah,
but you're cutting through your say it's a winter wheat
yeah,
that you crimped, and then all that's breaking down and going back into your soil, and it's also protecting, so you're keeping your soil covered. And then one of the things that I watched is how everybody, you got your ground tilled, and uh, because of the heat that's coming off of just bare tilled ground,
yeah.
it's pushing the rains away from them. And one of the guys said when we started doing crimping and different methods, and they grew, I think, soybeans and corn, he's like, whenever we just had bare soil, we were watching the rains coming and then going around us because the heat that was been, and then they started doing that, and they started getting the rains, which I thought was very interesting.
That is interesting. I'll have to look into that one more too. And I would think that if you had the maybe I'm wrong, but you would have that crimping section that would almost be like a sponge in the ground too, where you just put those new seeds in and whatnot. It absorbs some more of the water when you do get
Oh
the rains,
yeah,
so you got more moisture in the soil. That's
yeah.
interesting.
And you get a little protection on top of it, and
Right.
it's so that's. But if you get a chance at Carbon Cowboys on YouTube, I get caught up in that, and I'm sitting there watching for hours, and I'm like, oh man, I need to get up and do something. But
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that, man. I got into watching some of these guys in Alaska that were doing, some of the survival camps and turned everything into how they're building these cabins out of nothing, man. And they build almost like a cabin on the ground in a weekend and make it they just make it where it's completely viable all winter long, even in some of the harshest environments. But I enjoy that kind of stuff, Jay. But we don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's easy. I guess that's why we need Greg on some of these things to kind of keep it on the straight and narrow, dude. But I'm like a kid chasing a balloon in a park. I'll get after it in a minute. But what you guys got going on over there, man, is something special.
What?
And we enjoy it here with the Accessible Hunter podcast, but we need more of it out there. And so for the people that don't know you, and then they wanted to get in touch with you, Jay, I know you've put your information out there before, but for the realms of this podcast, if you don't mind telling people how they can get in touch with you, in case somebody needs prayer or whatever else.
Yeah, so you can get on our Facebook page. Feel free to message me on there. I mean, people do a lot. Or our email address is bicknellbunch8 and at Gmail. Shoot me an email. And like I said, I don't care a bit to you know call prayer, talk about dogs. If we get to talking about dogs, it might be you might catch me for hours and hours because I'm like that. But yeah, feel free to call anytime or uh, message me or email me, and then we'll get all that worked out. But yeah, we definitely uh, uh, we hope that we're helping people or showing them that man, life is fun. I mean, it's tough, but it's fun. So.
That's what it's about.
This is like the highlight of my of getting to be on here. I get excited, love it. I was a little worried because we're supposed to be leaving, and some stuff changed. We're going to leave a little later, and I'm like, yes. So I get to get to
Jay,
be.
you tell us. Anytime, brother. We love to share this time with you. And that's really, me and Greg have been doing this for many years. It is my highlight each and every week when we get to bring people on and we meet interesting people like you and we're able to introduce others to it. And you guys bring something that all it does is boost society. We need to love on each other and we need to share each other. And a lot of guys and girls, organizations, nonprofits, podcasts, they just don't want to share. I don't understand it, but all we want to do is highlight it. So thank you for your time and coming on. Thank you, boys, for going out a little bit later and being able to share a little bit, man. But I don't want to tie up your time forever. These hour always goes by super
Oh,
fast.
yeah.
And Jay, you really you boosted my week, man, and I can't thank you enough, brother.
And like I said, I love being on here. If y'all got an empty space, anytime you just say, "Hey, you want to be on here," and you won't have to ask twice. I can tell you that right now.
Hey, you got our contact information, man. Anytime, all you got to do is hit it up. We'll get you in.
All right, man.
Hey, good luck. We look forward to seeing some of those videos and those fish.
All right, we'll do.
Hey, we'll be talking to you soon, Jay.
All right. See you.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye bye.